The clarity we're seeing from the Clippers, not something we see often enough in the NBA. Too many teams talk themselves into like their mid-season run and be like, okay, why not us? Why couldn't we have some momentum here? Why couldn't we figure this out? But I think the combination of James Harden's contract not positioning him to be with the team for the long term, and the Clippers not wanting to invest in him in the long term, and everything in terms of the writing on the wall with Kawhi's ongoing health concerns, right? He's healthy now, he's available now, he's great now. What about tomorrow? What about a month from now? What about 2 months from now? There's just way too many questions and way too many variables for the Clippers, even at their absolute best, to feel confident that they're going to continue to be at their absolute best. And so long as that's true, everything should be on the table, including Ivica Zubac, who's been one of the most rock solid players over the last several years, an incredibly useful center in a variety of ways, which I'm sure we're going to get into from the Pacers side, and leaves a gigantic hole behind him as far as like what the Clippers are going to do with all this the rest of the way.
Yeah, so they weren't resigned to being old, which is always nice to see from anyone, from a team or from a person. I think it's interesting, sort of the influx of. So they go out and they've managed to add some speed and some vigor, and as whereas we've talked all season about how they were slower. I'm sure we'll talk about the Garland Harden situation, what that's going to look like. But they go out and they get Mathurin. The pick is really the thing that I was eyeballing it, because when I first saw the 2026 thing, I was like, that's not just straight up there. But we were texting about how this is protected 1 through 4. Then we have the gap, and the 5 through 9 gap, and then 10 through 30, it's protected. So depending on how the home stretch of this goes, it's going to make for a really interesting draft lottery night.
No, I think this is the ballsiest move that I can remember, probably on both sides in a very long time, because in the Clippers, you have a team actually getting out in front of the inevitable decline and actually hitting the button sooner than later, when we've seen so many teams basically wait until Ja Morant just doesn't have any value. Here, they just got ahead of it. They got rid of Harden and followed it up immediately with Zubac, which I thought was very smart of them. We'll see how Kawhi thinks about that. I mean, he's playing his best basketball of his career, but I guess to Rob's earlier point, like there's still a long way to go between where they are in 6th place in the West. So that makes sense. The Pacers doing this and basically leaving it up to the lottery gods, or just like how much they're going to now tank over the second half of the season, is unlike anything I've seen before. On the one hand, they could end up with Zubac, who I think is a great fit alongside a healthy Halliburton.
Awesome.
In that team.
Yeah.
Just from like a starting point. But if they then still tank, end up with the top 3 pick, they could add an AJ DeBonta to all of this. And so on lottery night, this could basically be like a dynasty or not, is really hanging in the balance.